Or Scary Trucker Horror Stories by Midnight Nightmare. I kind of like it, straight to the point, a little loud, but a good hook.
I've always liked the isolation of trucking. Some folks can't handle the endless stretches of road and empty landscape, but for me, it's peaceful. It's just you, your rig, and the road. You don't have to deal with anyone, and you can get lost in your thoughts.
Yeah.
Or at least, that's how it normally is. I had been driving somewhere in the middle of Nevada on a deserted highway with no real sign of life in any direction. It was one of those stretches of road where you could go hours without seeing another vehicle, let alone a town. It was close to midnight when I started noticing something was off with my rig.
What is it in Nevada? Or is it Utah? Give me a second. I trying to remember where it's at. Oh, I guess it's on the border of California then. I think it's on the border of California, Nevada, Blood Alley. It's dangerous. I'm using the AI overview because this is effectively what I'm looking for. It's a 2-lane highway. It was supposed to be expanded to 4 lanes, but I guess they're missing the budget for it. And it's just a really spooky stretch of road. Nevada, around Nevada, there seems to be a lot of stuff like that, which is interesting. Just massive stretches of road with nothing.
The engine made a faint, sputtering noise, barely noticeable at first, but enough to catch my attention. I looked down at the dashboard. Nothing seemed wrong. No warning lights, no signs of trouble.
Sure.
But the noise persisted. A quiet, irregular cough from the engine, as if it were struggling. I had another 2 hours before the next truck stop, but I figured I'd make it there before anything serious happened. At least, that's what I thought. About 20 minutes later, the sputtering turned into a full-on stutter, and before I knew it, the engine just died. The truck coasted to a slow halt on the side of the road, the hum of the engine fading into nothing, leaving me in the oppressive silence of the night.
I can't tell if this image is AI generated or not. Is there a vehicle that uses this many gauges? I honestly can't tell.
I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. I'd maintained my truck religiously, and it hadn't given me any issues before. I turned the key, hoping it was just a fluke, but the engine wouldn't turn over.
Interesting.
Just that awful clicking sound of a dead engine. Great. I flicked on the hazard lights and stepped out of the cab. The night air hit me like a wall of heat, even though it was well past sundown. Desert nights are supposed to be cool, but there was something strange about the air. I popped the hood and grabbed my flashlight from the toolbox, shining it over the engine. I'm no mechanic, but I know enough to spot the basics. Everything looked fine. No obvious leaks, no signs of damage, but something wasn't right. It didn't matter how many times I tried to start the truck, it wasn't going anywhere. I grabbed the CB. Breaker 19, anyone out there? I'm stuck.
I mean, is it turning over at that point? Like, I'm no mechanic, right? I'm pretty car illiterate, right? If it's not turning over, that might be starter, right? Like, if it physically isn't doing anything, the starter could be dead.
On the side of the highway, rig's dead. Anyone nearby? My voice echoed through the cab, but the response was only static. I tried again, a little louder this time, my unease growing. Come on, someone's got to be out there. I could use some help. Nothing. No crackle of a distant voice, no sign of another driver. Just static. I stood there for a minute, the quiet pressing in on me. My phone didn't have a signal, and the nearest town was too far to walk to. I was stuck in the middle of nowhere with no one to call and no way to fix the truck. I felt an eerie tingle climb the back of my neck.
I think that's one of those things I hadn't considered, actually. So I went for a mini road trip. I was going to go to Astoria, Oregon, which is like half a day's drive from me, right? I got all the way to Baker City from Idaho. I had to connect through Ontario. Then I went up to Baker City. So it was a few hours time investment, right? A few hundred miles. But it's like, I can't imagine like if I was to go down to California, or if I was going to go down like, to Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, etc., even go to like road trip to Texas, right? I was actually planning on going down to Oklahoma, actually, which that's like a full day. Like I could 24-hour stream that, honestly. But the problem that I run into is, like there's going to be stretches of road with nothing. And I can tell you, even going from Ontario to Baker City, my phone service was getting interrupted just going up those tiny hills, right? Like, I don't know. I say tiny. I went at night in the middle of the night, so I couldn't actually see anything. I just focused on the road in front of me, and everything else is effectively just the void, right? Yeah, that is a huge concern. I mean, these are it's not he's not using his phone necessarily, but like a cam radio and stuff. I mean, those are only going to have so much of a range, right? I think the implication here is that something spooky and supernatural is going on. But this is like a really real concern, and like honestly, like even just taking a few hour trip to Baker City, right, and then coming back, like I've talked about how like why do we make fun of truck drivers? Why do we shit on them? And I'm just like, then I did the thing, and I'm just more found respect. I'm sorry, you guys do this for 18 to 20 hours a day, and you have to check in with your employer, and you can't really go overtime, but they kind of expect you to go overtime, and you single-handedly, the trucking industry single-handedly keeps things in stock, right? You can't find something like a Switch 2. You can't find the grill you're looking for. Guess who delivers that, right? They don't manufacture that in-house, right? They got to ship it, and generally it goes through truckers. Blows my mind that we like just people in general give truckers like zero respect, right? Like just driving like 5-ish hours, just able to empathize. Like, cool, let's scale this up to 18 hours every day, or let even go down to like 12. Like, let's say 12 hours every single day. That is a lot of distance and a lot of time to cover. Like, that is wild to me.
That feeling you get when you know something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. I was about to get back into the cab when I saw a pair of headlights in the distance, faint but growing closer.
Interesting.
Relief flooded through me. Maybe it was another trucker, someone who could help or at least give me a ride to the next stop. As the vehicle got closer, I could see it was an old, beat-up pickup truck. It rolled to a stop a few yards ahead of my rig, and a man stepped out. He was tall and lanky, his clothes worn and dusty, like he'd been on the road for days. There was something about him that immediately put me on edge.
He's a
need some help?
ghost.
He asked, his voice gravelly and low. For a second, I wasn't sure how to respond. Something about him felt off, but what choice did I have?
Yeah, what do you do in a situation like that?
I was stranded in the middle of nowhere, and I couldn't afford to be picky. Yeah, my truck broke down, I said, forcing a smile. I'm not sure what the problem is. It just died. The man nodded slowly, his eyes flicking toward my rig. Mind if I take a look? I hesitated, but what was I going to say? No, I was stuck, and this guy was the only person around. Sure.
I mean, that's the social game, right? The social game of somebody asks you a thing, talks to you, you must respond in kind. They ask for a thing, and if it's within reasonable expectations, right? Hey, you just said that your truck is broken down. May I take a look? You're playing the social game at that point, right? There are social expectations, right? Much like picking up a game like Magic the Gathering, picking up a game like League of Legends, pick anything, right? Like, there's rules and etiquette to the social game.
Go ahead. He walked over to the truck, moving with a strange, deliberate slowness, and I felt my unease grow.
Yeah.
He didn't ask any questions about the truck, didn't seem all that interested in the engine. He just stood there, peering under the hood, his back turned to me. Something about the whole situation felt wrong, like I was missing something obvious. The hair on my arm stood up, and I took a step back, trying to keep some distance between us. The man stayed under the hood for longer than seemed necessary. He wasn't moving much, just standing there, his head tilted slightly as if he was listening to something.
This makes me wonder if he's supposed to be the front man, right? Like, you know how people will, they'll send someone up to the door, generally someone female, right? They'll send a woman up to the door, hey, I kind of broke down. I just need to borrow a phone. Can I come in really quick? And then you open the door and suddenly like 5 guys rush inside your house, right? Like, this makes me feel like this would be a bait. This would be a front man, right?
I shifted on my feet, feeling more uneasy. See anything wrong? I asked, trying to break the silence. He didn't respond at first, just stood there, still as a statue. When he finally turned to face me, "Looks like you're in a bit of trouble," he said, his voice low and almost amused.
Yeah.
"But I can help. There's a place not far from here, just off the highway. I've got some tools there. We can tow your rig and get you fixed up."
Right.
My gut was shouting at me to refuse. There was something in his voice, something in the way he looked at me, that felt wrong, like he wasn't offering help at all.
the silence tells me that this was a story he had to either fabricate on the spot, or this is one he's used before, and he realizes he's being pressed, right? The social game, right? He's taken too long to get this thing done. Therefore, hey, anything look wrong? Thus, he takes too long to answer. Thus, then he does answer. The social game requires, look, you have to respond at that point, and he knows he's on a timer. Realistically, that is something that sends up red flags. Notoriously, I dealt with this once upon a time, and I refused it, right? I was supposed to go meet up with a couple people to do something. I've talked about this before. And they're just like, oh yeah, well, we'll just, we can go meet up and we can, go hang out and do a thing. And then suddenly it turned into, well, it's technically my friend's house that we're going to go to. It's technically not our house. And it's like, okay. And then, the final straw for me was like, hey, I'm getting ready to do the thing. They're like, well, actually, we're going to have you drive over to this parking lot. And then we're going to go pick you up in our truck. And then we will drive you to this location. I'm like, no, something's not right here at this point. Something's wrong. There are too many modifications at that point that it doesn't make sense, right? And this is one of those things where, like, reasonably, he might have a thing up the road. It's entirely possible. But considering the intricacies of the social game are not being followed, and the dude has clearly taken time doing jack all, no, this doesn't read as a situation that you want to be a part of.
But something else. Something darker. I appreciate the offer, but I think I'll just wait for a tow. Shouldn't be too long before someone comes by.
Mm-hmm.
The man's eyes narrowed slightly.
Yep, there it is.
For a moment,
there's the tell.
We just stood there, staring at each other in the dim light from my truck's headlights. You sure? He asked, taking a step closer. It's a long way to the next town.
Yeah, that
Could
sucks.
be hours before anyone else comes through.
Sure.
I could feel my heart beating in my throat. Something was very wrong here, and I knew it. But I couldn't afford to show fear.
He's trying to convince
yet.
him.
I'm sure, I said, forcing a smile. Thanks for stopping, though. The man stared at me for a long moment, his eyes cold and calculating, like he was weighing his options. Then, without another word, he turned and walked back to his truck. But the way he did it, slow and deliberate, made it clear this wasn't over. I watched as the man climbed into his truck, but he didn't drive away. He just sat there, his engine idling.
I feel like at this point you lock yourself in your cab at this point. And I open up truckers. I open up anyone in the truck driving industry. Anyone who's been on long road experience. Like, how do you deal with a situation like this? Reasonably, I feel at that point, if you're going to wait, just lock yourself in. Lock yourself in your truck. It's not like you can get out if you need to, right? What is he going to do? Come after you and try to break down the window to get to you? Then you have at least one layer of protection between you and him, right? Even if the car does not work, right? And this also gets into, right, with truckers, right? Because you're crossing so many state lines, it might not actually be possible for a trucker to carry. We've talked about this before, right? Even if you're going, say, from Idaho to, I don't know, you're trucking all the way to New York or something like that, right? Or vice versa. You're going from New York to like Idaho, or you're going all the way to California, right? Passing through however many states and their own firearms regulations and firearms laws, that carrying might not be an option. So I guess you get the baseball bat out or something. I guess you have, I'm assuming that there's some equivalent. I think tasers and pepperball, the pepperball guns, I think those might also be run afoul of some regulations as well. And I don't know. I don't know what the meta is at that point, because situations where you have to protect yourself could pop up. What is the plan for that? What is the approved way that trucking companies will say to deal with things like this?
I backed up toward the cab of my rig, my hands shaking as I fumbled for the door handle. I climbed in and locked the doors. The man's truck hadn't moved. He was still sitting there, waiting. I tried to tell myself it was fine, that he'd leave soon, but the uneasy feeling in my gut wouldn't go away.
We're out of gas
like
eventually.
He was planning something, like he was waiting for the right moment. Minutes passed, then an hour. The man's truck still hadn't moved. My palms were slick with sweat, my nerves fraying with every second that ticked by. Suddenly, the man's truck lurched forward, pulling up alongside my rig. My stomach twisted with dread as I saw his silhouette through the window, his face illuminated by the dim glow of his dashboard lights. He was watching me, his expression unreadable, but there was something in his eyes that gave me an eerie, chilling feeling. He rolled down his window and leaned out. "You sure you don't want that help, buddy?" I didn't answer. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest.
Dude is really reaching at straws here now.
I reached for my phone again, hoping against hope that I'd somehow gotten a signal, but the screen was still blank. The man got out of his truck, leaving the engine running, and started walking toward my door. My hands fumbled for the keys, desperately trying to start the engine, but the truck still wouldn't turn over. As he drew closer, panic surged inside me. That same slow, deliberate walk that had set off alarms in my head from the start. I grabbed the tire iron from under the seat, gripping it tightly in my trembling hands. If he tried to get in, I'd have to defend myself. There was no other option. He reached the door and knocked, hard. "Open up," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Let's have a talk." I didn't move.
Bro.
Didn't breathe. Just sat there, clutching the tire iron, my pulse roaring in my ears.
Bro, let's have a talk. Bold of you to assume someone like me gives anyone who says that to me any mind, right? Oh my god. That yeah, I mean you can feel the mood shifting here though. You can feel that this man is done. He's done with the games. He's done with trying to wait. He's going to try to achieve his endgame.
He knocked again, harder this time. "Don't make this difficult."
What do you mean difficult? Get out
The truck's engine still wouldn't start. My mind raced, trying to figure out what to do, but there were no good options. I was trapped. Then, just as he reached for the door handle, I heard the sound of another engine in the distance. Headlights appeared in my rearview mirror, and I felt a surge of hope.
Nice, good
Another
stuff.
truck was approaching, its lights cutting through the darkness like a beacon. The man froze, his hands still on the door handle, his eyes narrowing as he looked over his shoulder at the approaching vehicle.
See, suddenly the cost benefit isn't there for him, right? Much in like in other videos we discussed at this point, the cost benefit is not there, therefore making him reconsider doing his actions.
For a moment, I thought he was going to try to break in anyway, but then he turned and walked back to his truck. Without another word, he climbed in, slammed the door, and peeled out, speeding off into the night. The other trucker pulled up behind me. I was too shaken to get out at first, too stunned by what had just happened. But eventually, I forced myself to step out, to wave down the driver. He was a fellow long-haul trucker, just passing through. When I told him what had happened, he offered to stay with me until a tow truck arrived.
Right.
I don't know how much time passed before help finally showed up, but the man never came back.
Good.
I've been driving trucks for years, but that night was the closest I've ever come to real danger. The man on the highway may have seemed like he was offering help, but I know now that his intentions were anything but good. And to this day, whenever I'm driving through a deserted stretch of highway, I keep my eyes on the road, and I never, ever stop for strangers. Sometimes the people who offer help are the ones you need to fear the most.
Correct. Because not everyone is genuine about it. I think the part that messes me up about this is clearly, in this situation, the other person is the aggressor, right? And this is honestly why dash cams are a good idea at this point, right? Dash cams having some sort of recording on. Because what happens if dude actually broke in, person being encroached upon, right? Being harassed, had to beat him with the tire iron, and then he just sues you for assault, right? We've seen this happen in many other things before, right? Don't we have legal precedent? What was it? Good Samaritan laws in the U.S. There's a famous story that I've heard. I can't substantiate it. Someone would have to substantiate it. Allegedly, what happened is somebody was saved someone who was choking, Heimlich maneuver status, but I think like ruptured her organ or like broke a rib or something like that. Anyway, she ended up suing the guy and winning. So at the end of the day, even if you're being chivalrous, even if you're doing the right thing, we, from my understanding, have legal precedent that that's no protection, right? Laws like Good Samaritan laws that are in place to protect you against action in trying to do something good fail. And it's really odd to think about, right? Like we talk about the social game throughout this entire thing, right? The social game is that if you do something, say, I don't know, beat your aggressor with a tire iron, right? Well, you shouldn't have done that, okay? That was a clear escalation of force. We're going to hold this against you, right? We're going to spend some time in jail. We're going to fine you for that, right? And if you're a law-abiding citizen doing everything they can to make ends meet, you'll be punished for it. Meanwhile, somebody who doesn't care isn't punished for it, right? So let's take on streams we were talking about Baca working AP, right, asset protection, right? How you can trespass somebody 40 times from a store for theft. And yeah, sure, the police will pick them up. The police will talk to them. Sometimes they spend some time in jail, depending on the charges, right? Especially if they open emergency exit. And then they just keep coming back. What part of that is fair, right? If you, dear chat member, did that, right? Pretty sure that pretty sure. I don't know. It's so strange, right? Because if you did that, you would be on the chopping block. You would be like, wow, this really foobarred my life. But so other people can do it who don't care, and nothing happens, right? So what is reasonable in those situations, right? Where you have to look at a situation like this and think, the fact that you have to think, will self-defense result in any way, shape, or form me getting in trouble? And I think that's a really awful thing that we have to consider. I think that is a thing that you should have an opinion about, whatever conclusion you come to. But that's something that really kind of grinds my gears about people who don't care versus people who do care. Punishments seem to really only affect people who do care. And if you don't care, they don't do anything. And in fact, you could still get in trouble because you defended yourself.
For close to 2 decades, I've been on the road. As a long-haul trucker, you get used to the solitude, the long hours, and the isolation that comes with it. I've driven through every kind of weather on roads that seemed like they stretched forever and into towns so remote they barely existed on a map.
Interesting.
But in all those years, there's only one particular night that continues to haunt my nights. I was on a cross-country haul from Arizona to Georgia. It was late October, and I'd just made it past the New Mexico border when I realized I needed to pull over for the night. I'd been on the road for nearly 11 hours straight, and my eyelids were getting heavy. You know the feeling. Your brain starts to slow down, and before you know it, you're nodding off at the wheel.
Yep.
Not safe. I wasn't near any major truck stops, though. Just a long, empty stretch of highway with nothing in sight. I figured I'd keep an eye out for the next rest stop and pull over there for a few hours of sleep. It wasn't ideal, but I've done it plenty of times before. That's when I saw the sign. Rest stop, 2 miles. Perfect timing. I slowed down as I approached the exit and pulled off the highway. As I rolled into the rest stop, I could already tell something was off. The place was practically abandoned. There were only 2 other trucks in the lot, both of them parked at the far end, their cabs dark, no signs of life inside. The rest stop itself wasn't much to look at, just a few parking spaces, a couple of picnic tables, and an old, beat-up restroom building. There were no lights except for a single flickering street lamp near the entrance, casting eerie shadows across the cracked pavement.
See, every time I see a flickering light, I always joke that it's the murder hobo light. Because I've absolutely drove into my subdivision, right? Like where I live, right? And sometimes there'll be like a light that's on the fritz or something like that. Like the HOA just doesn't notice it or something. And I'm just like, yeah, that's where crimes happen. That's where things happen. Obviously it's in joke, but like we joke about it because of things like this, because it's like, okay, this area is looking pretty sus.
I parked my rig near the middle of the lot, not too close to the other trucks, but not too far either.
Sure.
Something about the isolation didn't sit right with me, but I figured I was just being paranoid.
No, you're doing the thing where you walk into the restroom and the guy is at the furthest urinal on the left, but you don't want to go to the other side of the restroom, right? Because that's just weird. Little bit, paranoid a little bit. But if you don't want to go to the urinal like right next to him, you go to the one that's one removed from him, right? And then you enter that weird situation where like you enter the restroom and the guy's at like the urinal, and like 2 urinals to his right, another dude's there, but it doesn't, you don't want to stand next to either of them. So then you remove yourself from the situation, and then you go to the furthest urinal on the right. Guys know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it. If it doesn't make sense to you, it makes sense. I promise. In a weird way, urinal logic makes sense. It's just inherent. It just works. Todd Howard.
I cut the engine and sat there for a minute, letting the silence of the desert settle around me. It was unnervingly quiet. No wind, no crickets, no distant hum of traffic. Just dead, suffocating silence. I grabbed my thermos and took a long swig of coffee, hoping it would shake off the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. But it didn't. After a few minutes, I decided to stretch my legs and use the restroom before settling in for some sleep. I grabbed my flashlight from the glove compartment and stepped out of the cab. The night air was cold and the ground crunched under my boots as I walked toward the restroom building. The restroom was in worse shape than I expected. The door hung slightly off its hinges and the walls were covered in graffiti.
Oof.
I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The smell hit me first, musty, damp, like the place hadn't been cleaned in ages. I flicked on the light switch, but nothing happened. I pointed my flashlight at the cracked tiles and peeling paint, trying to find the least disgusting stall to use.
Yep.
As I was doing my business, I heard it. The sound of footsteps. Soft
In the room.
at first, then louder, like someone was walking slowly around the building, circling it. I froze. The rest stop had been empty when I pulled in. No other cars had arrived, and the trucks parked at the far end were still dark and silent. So who the hell was walking around? I quickly finished up and stepped out of the stall. I listened carefully, straining to hear, but the footsteps had stopped. Maybe it was just my imagination. Maybe it was the wind or an animal or something else. I opened the door, shining my flashlight around the lot. Nothing. Just the same eerie silence and the dim glow of the street lamp flickering in the distance. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves, and made my way back to my truck. I was halfway back to my rig when I saw him, a man standing by one of the picnic tables. I could barely see him in the dark. He was with his hands stuffed into the pockets of a heavy jacket, his face hidden by the hood pulled over his head. I stopped.
I mean, if you see a hood pulled over someone's face, like, we all wear hoodies. I still technically wear like a hoodie. I never kept the hood up though, actually. But I mean, look, at night, if someone's wearing a hoodie and they have their hood up, just assume the worst. Just disengage. Just don't deal with that.
In my tracks, my heart skipping a beat. He hadn't been there when I'd gotten out of my truck. I was sure of it. I hadn't seen or heard anyone else when I pulled in. So where had he come from? I kept my flashlight trained on him, but he didn't move. He just stood there, completely still. I couldn't make out his face, but something about his posture, the way he stood there like he was waiting for something, made my skin crawl. I forced myself to keep walking, not wanting to show any sign of fear. As I got closer to my truck, I looked over my shoulder. The man hadn't moved. He was still standing there, watching me. I climbed into the cab, locking the doors behind me, and sat there for a moment. My hands were shaking. I told myself it was nothing. Just some guy passing through. Another trucker maybe. But why hadn't I seen him pull in? And why was he just standing there? I peeked out of the window, but the man was gone. I tried to relax, telling myself that everything was fine, that I was just tired. I lay down on the bed at the back of the cabin, figuring I'd try to get some sleep.
Man's gonna slash your tires.
But the unease I felt earlier had only grown worse. I couldn't stop thinking about the man by the picnic table, the way he'd been standing there watching me in the shadows. I turned off the interior light and lay in the darkness of the cab, listening to the silence outside. I couldn't escape the nagging feeling that I was being watched. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured the man's silhouette standing motionless in the dark. I don't know how long I lay there, but it must have been close to an hour. I was starting to drift off when I heard it again. Footsteps, this time right outside my truck. I shot up. I grabbed my flashlight and shined it through the window, but there was no one there. Just the empty parking lot, the flickering street lamp, and the endless blackness of the desert. The footsteps continued, circling the truck now. Slow, deliberate, my stomach twisted with fear. This wasn't my imagination. Someone, or something, was out there. I listened as the footsteps stopped right outside my door. I held my breath, waiting for something to happen. But the next sound I heard wasn't footsteps, it was a knock. Soft at first, almost polite, like someone tapping gently on the door. I didn't move. I couldn't. Then the knock came again, louder this time, more insistent. I leaned forward, trying to peer through the window without making it obvious, but I couldn't see anyone, just the edge of the truck, bathed in the dim light of the street lamp. Then, from the other side of the cab, I heard it again. Another knock. Like someone or more than one person was tapping on both sides of the truck at once.
I think that's the big one here as well, is if it ends up being multiple people, or if you think it's multiple people, you're already in a disadvantageous situation. Like, that strength in numbers thing really proves true.
I grabbed my phone, hands trembling as I dialed 911, but there was no signal. I cursed under my breath, knowing how remote the area was. Of course, there was no service out here. The knocks continued, more aggressive. Whoever was out there wasn't just messing with me, they wanted in. I debated getting out, trying to scare them off, but something told me that was a bad idea. There was more than one person out there. I could feel it, and they were waiting for me to make a move.
I mean, it's interesting that there's a setup phase here, right? It's interesting because I've noticed with a lot of these situations that we end up covering, right? It almost feels like there's a setup phase where somebody, you know, tries to knock, they try to get your attention, maybe even trying to lure you, say, into a basement or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. Like, what do you do with that logic, with that understanding? Like, what do you do with it? I think is the question that I come to. Like, why is there a setup phase? I guess it comes down to maybe it's a cost-benefit analysis. One of the other videos we ended up watching was going through the French countryside and having that kind of stare-off moment. Clearly playing this metaphysical game of chicken with each other, right? I don't know. Like, this is... I guess it's preparation and trying to weigh the benefits versus the detriments, and thus deciding then to commit to the action. Because for all intents and purposes, like, you're engaging in criminal activity, harassing somebody, or worse, to somebody, right? Like, you're engaging in criminal activity, or are thinking of going to engage criminal activity in a situation like this, right? Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best situation, assuming your tires aren't slashed at that point, just get out of there. Just at the very least, leave that specific truck stop. Like, I get it. We've all been tired. Yeah, I think leaving is going to be the best thing that you can do at this point, really. Yeah, just get out of there.
I don't know what made me do it, but I reached over and slammed my fist against the horn, the loud blare echoing through the empty rest stop.
Fair.
For a moment, the knocking stopped. I waited, my breath caught in my throat, listening for any sign of movement. Then I heard it, a car engine. Headlights illuminating the darkness as another vehicle pulled into the lot, its bright beams sweeping across the pavement and illuminating the shadows that had been lurking outside my truck. 3 figures stood there, scattered around my rig.
3?
They were all wearing dark clothes, their faces hidden by hoods. When the car's lights hit them, they froze, then quickly scattered, disappearing.
An ironic police officer?
Into the darkness of the desert. I didn't waste any time. I turned the key, started the engine, and peeled out of that rest stop as fast as I could. My heart was racing, my hands shaking as I gripped the wheel. I didn't look back. I didn't want to. I drove straight through the night, not stopping until I hit a well-lit truck stop a few hours later.
Right.
Even then, I didn't feel safe. I couldn't stop thinking about the figures knocking on my doors. I told a few other truckers what had happened, and one of them told me he'd heard rumors about that rest stop. Apparently, it wasn't the first time something like that had happened there. People had gone missing, trucks found abandoned, but there was never any proof.
Then that's what I was about to say. Isn't there 2 other trucks there? Are they there as bait? Are they there because their driver's no longer there? That yeah.
Just stories. I never stop at rest stops that remote anymore. You never know who or what might be waiting for you in the dark. And the worst part, I still hear those knocks sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of those. You just don't know. I don't know. And that makes me, honestly, because I didn't know, I wasn't really sure what rest stops were or how they were going out recently, right? I think this is one of those that, yeah, make sure you just stop at a well-lit area. Make sure that you're being safe, obviously. Yeah, like, it's an awful situation to be in, because I get, like, being super tired and just needing to not, right? Like, hindsight's 20/20 and all that, right? But it at least helps try to prevent situations like this. Right. Some stores have
I've been a
safe
trucker for over 20
lot.
years, and let me tell you, I've seen some strange things out on the road. Long stretches of highway at night can play tricks on your mind. Sometimes you see shadows that aren't really there, or your tired eyes start to blur reality. You get used to the isolation, the endless miles of nothingness, but there was one night, one stretch of road that I'll never forget. It was a late November night, and I was hauling a load through Texas, heading down a remote highway that cut through miles of empty desert. The road was as straight as an arrow, with no towns for miles, no gas stations, no rest stops, just pitch black on either side of me. I usually don't mind the solitude. It gives me time to think, to clear my head. But that night, something felt off. The air was heavy, the kind of weight that sits on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. My headlights illuminating nothing but the cracked asphalt in front of me. I looked at the clock on my dash, 11:47 p.m. I still had a few hours to go before I'd planned to pull over for the night, but I wasn't feeling tired. There was an uneasy energy in the air that kept me alert, like my body knew something was coming before my mind did. It must have been another hour of driving when I first noticed the car. At first, it was just a pair of headlights in my rearview mirror, far.
Dude, I don't know where these cars come from, though. Like, obviously, I was going, the highway between, Oregon and Idaho, right? And it's like, yeah, there'll be cars, like, nowhere. And then suddenly I'll just see, like, headlights. And I was like, bro, where do you guys come from? I guess they come from different exits and, like, stuff like that. But, like, the clear difference here is, like, this is a stretch of road with nothing on it, right? Like, sure, a driver, right? Not necessarily going to be the weirdest thing. It's something you're going to take note of in a remote area like this. Like, oh, yeah, I guess we're just on the same road, right? Just one of those things that are just, you sit there and you kind of scratch your head.
In the distance. I didn't think much of it. It's rare to see other vehicles out on roads like these at that time of night, but
actually, good point. Most of the vehicles that I saw on the highway on my mini road trip, which I'd like to go to Astoria again. I'd like to backlog React content and actually be able to go take, like, I don't know, like drive to the coast or something would be pretty cool. That's kind of my goal over the next however long. But I don't know. That's one of those things where, like, most of it was trucks. Like, sure, I didn't see a lot of oh god, what is the word? Like flatbed trucks, like F-150s or anything like that. I saw some like SUVs, most stuff like that, but most of it was actually like semi trucks.
It's not unheard of. Maybe another trucker, maybe someone driving cross country. I kept an eye on it though. It's a habit I picked up over the years. Knowing what's behind you is just as important as watching what's in front. But the car didn't seem to be gaining on me. It stayed back, keeping the same distance. After about 20 minutes of this, I started to get a little suspicious. I'd been driving at a steady pace, around 65 miles per hour, and any car behind me should have caught up by now or at least gotten closer.
Right.
But this one stayed exactly where it was. I did my best to dismiss the discomfort growing in the pit of my stomach. I told myself it was just some guy who didn't want to pass. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I had a semi get almost bumper to bumper with me on this same exact road thing I was doing. They ended up eventually moving over to the right lane and passing me. But like I had to actually like floor it. Like that thing got bumper to bumper with me. It was kind of wild. Where it's one of those things where you look at it and you're just like, you're cognizant of other people, right? You'll make sure that if you're behind them, you turn your brights off and the other person has their brights on. That way you can see a little bit in front of you. And if you pass them, they'll turn off their brights and you turn on your brights, right? There's kind of a little like unspoken dance, it seems. Yeah, it's definitely a little discomforting when you start seeing things like right up on you, like right on your bumper.
Nervous about being out here alone. Still, I couldn't help looking back at the mirror every few minutes, waiting for the car to either speed up or fall behind. But it didn't. It just stayed there. Another 30 minutes passed, and the car hadn't budged. My palms were starting to sweat, and I couldn't focus on the road ahead of me. All I could think about was those headlights in my mirror. My heart started beating faster, even though nothing had really happened yet. But something deep down was telling me that this wasn't normal. This wasn't just some guy driving through the desert at night. There was something wrong. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I'd been through worse. I'd driven through blizzards, nearly jackknifed on icy roads, and been stuck in dead zones where I couldn't get help for hours. This was just my imagination, I told myself. But no matter how many times I tried to push the fear aside, it kept creeping back in like a cold hand gripping the back of my neck. I turned up the radio hoping to drown out my thoughts, but all I could find was static. Of course. Out here, stations are few and far between. I switched it off and tried to focus on the road, but that damn car was still in my mirror, a pair of unwavering eyes that never blinked. I'd had enough. I decided I was going to slow down and let the car pass me. If this guy was just messing with me, I'd call him out. If not, maybe he'd finally get the hint and go around me. I eased off the gas and watched the car in the mirror, expecting it to get closer, but it didn't. I slowed down more, down to 50 miles per hour, then 40. The car stayed exactly where it was, not getting closer, not falling behind. My heart was racing now.
Gauging distance.
This wasn't possible. I slowed down even more until I was barely crawling along at 30 miles per hour. But still, the headlights in the distance didn't move. It was like they were glued to that spot in the mirror. What the hell was going on? I pressed the brakes, bringing my truck to a complete stop in the middle of the road. I sat there, staring into the rearview mirror, waiting for the car to catch up. But when I looked again, it was gone. The road behind me was empty. No headlights, no car, just darkness stretching
They could have turned off the headlights at that point because they noticed, they know that they've been noticed.
out for miles. I leaned forward, squinting into the mirror, trying to see if the car had turned off or maybe pulled over somewhere I hadn't noticed. But there was nothing. A car couldn't just disappear like that. Not out here on this dead straight road with no turnoffs, no exits, no place to go. I must have missed something. I had to. I threw the truck into gear and started moving again, faster this time. My hands were slick with sweat and I could barely keep my grip on the wheel. My mind raced with explanations. Maybe the guy had turned off his lights, or maybe I just imagined the whole thing. But no matter how hard I tried to rationalize it, I had a nagging feeling that something was very wrong. I'd been driving for about 15 minutes when the headlights reappeared in my mirror. My stomach dropped. The car was back, same distance, same exact spot in my rear view. It was like nothing had happened, like it had never disappeared at all. My hands trembled on the wheel, and I could feel the panic rising in my chest. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't just stop again, not with whatever was happening behind me.
I mean, this kind of sucks, right? Like, when you think about this, right? Like, this kind of sucks being on such an isolated stretch of road. I mean, that's why we talk about just like isolated roads in general, right? It just, stuff can happen on them, right? I'm sure that there's stretches of highway that truckers could say, Kip, don't go down this highway. If you go down this highway, don't stop, right? Which allegedly is, of course, the blood alley we discussed earlier. Allegedly, yeah, just gas up, don't stop, just go through. And not necessarily for any like, oh, you're worried about skinwalkers and wendigos, right? No, nothing like that. Just like, it's just such an isolated stretch of road. One, there will be no one to help you if you break down, realistically, right? And two, if you do run into trouble, right? If someone is hypothetically tailing you, there's going to be no one to help you. You are at the mercy of the other individual or individuals, and you are in a situation that just, you have nothing but yourself and your wits, right? I don't know. I like hearing about these kind of things, honestly, because it's super fascinating to me. It's really fascinating to hear about like different aspects. Like, that's why I like what I do, right? Sure, I get to react to some cool and funny things. There's people who could tell me like, yeah, actually, Kip, if you're going anywhere down Nevada or Utah, don't go on these highways specifically. Or, hey, if you're going to Oregon, don't go, I would very much recommend you locking your doors and just going through this stretch of road because this stretch of road ain't right. Or the stretch of road has been, very popular with serial unalivers, right? That kind of thing, right? Like the knowledge is there. You just have to ask the right people for that knowledge, right? And sometimes hearing opinions about things is going to be great. Like there'll be people who say, this highway just sucks. Don't go down this highway, right? And some people agree and some people disagree, right? I don't know. It's super fascinating to hear how people talk about these kinds of things in circles that I'm not in, right? Like, sure, I could tell you my opinion on, like, Warframe, right? I could tell you my opinion on League of Legends. I could tell you my opinion on Resident Evil or Silent Hill, right? But it's like, I don't know highways and a lot of trucking things. I don't know. God, there's I don't remember what it is. A road in Michigan that you go on a bridge is supposed to honk 3 times and a ghost is supposed to appear looking for a child. Someone in Michigan will know what I'm talking about. But it's like, yeah, like just people just talk about this, but it never reaches that mainstream appeal. And I also think that's kind of why TikTok kind of gains so much attention, right? Like, sure, don't get me wrong, like brain rot content, but it's also like it like feeds into that parasocialism and just learning things about other people.
And speeding up didn't seem to make a difference either. I tried to stay calm, tried to focus on the road ahead, but every few seconds, my eyes flicked back to the mirror, watching those headlights like they were some kind of predator stalking me.
You feel haunted, yeah.
I thought about pulling over at the next gas station, but there wasn't one for another 40 miles, and something told me stopping wouldn't help.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the car started moving. I blinked, not sure if I was seeing things right, but no, it was getting closer now. Slowly at first, but then picking up speed. My heart slammed against my ribs as I watched it approach. It wasn't swerving, wasn't flashing its lights, just coming straight for me, steady and fast.
Bro, your little sedan ain't gonna stand up to getting hit by a big just rear-ending a semi. It ain't gonna do stuff. Come on now.
I floored it, speeding down the highway at 70, 80 miles per hour. But no matter how fast I went, the car kept gaining on me. It was like something out of a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
The headlights filled my rear view, so bright I had to squint to see the road in front of me. Then the car was right on me, so close I could almost see the shape of it in my mirrors. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just knew I had to get away. But just as quickly as it had appeared, the car veered off into the darkness, disappearing from my mirror.
Remember, there's no turnoffs here. They just effectively said F it, we ball, and just turned off the actual road.
I didn't stop until I hit the next gas station. A small, decaying place, the sort that looks like it's been untouched since the 70s. But I didn't care. I pulled into the lot, jumped out of my truck, and ran inside, my legs shaking so badly I could barely stand. The attendant looked at me like I was crazy, but I didn't care. I just needed to be around people, to feel like I wasn't alone anymore. After a few minutes of pacing, I told the attendant what had happened. He just shrugged and gave me a knowing look. "You're not the first trucker to see something strange on that road," he said. "Happens more than you'd think. Some folks say there's a haunted car that follows drivers out there, but it never actually does anything. Just scares the hell out of you." I didn't know what to say. Haunted? That couldn't be it. But then again, I couldn't explain what had happened either. I stayed at that gas station for an hour, long enough for my heart to stop racing and my hands to steady. I didn't want to get back on the road, but I didn't have a choice. Eventually, I forced myself to climb back into my truck and keep driving. I haven't taken that route since. I avoid it like the plague, because no matter how much I try to tell myself it was just my imagination, there's a part of me that knows whatever was out there that night, it wasn't normal.
Yeah.
And I'm not sticking around to find out what happens if it catches you.
I mean, that's kind of a hard one to really look at, right? Because like there's not really an explanation, right? And like maybe in like so seeing like the 40 miles to town, right? Like that does put the car behind you on a timer, right? That's why it tries to overtake you. Maybe it thought that the cost benefit analysis just wasn't that it just wasn't there, so they veered off into the night somewhere. I mean, clearly they've turned off their lights before, so especially if they're familiar with the area, it wouldn't be that hard, especially at night, right? To go off the road, maybe hide their car behind some rock or something like that. You can assume malicious intent. You could also assume just a bunch of pranksters. I mean, there's still some IRL isms before you start getting into the spooky and the paranormal and the supernatural, right? And what is a lot of supernatural rumors other than, you know, hey, don't go, don't go out to this area at night because legend says the ghost of the man with the hook will haunt you and will slice you up. And that could just be, you know, either there was a serial unaliver there long ago and, you know, it's just like, you know, hey, just avoid it because there's creeps out there, or it could just be a fabrication to be like, look, we just don't want you going out at night, okay? There's some crazy people. You don't want to run into these crazy people, especially in an isolated area, right? Like, wherein lies the truth to get to the rumors of haunted car is what that really comes down to. But, yeah, isolated roads. one of those things that I look at things like these and scratch my head with how do you deal with that?
I like to think of myself as a person who values practicality. Working long-haul trucking for as many years as I have, you deal with things head-on. Flat tires, bad weather, endless nights on empty highways. But there was one night, one stretch of road that still haunts me to this day. It was about 6 years ago, and I was driving through the Appalachian Mountains.
Yep, that's
I'd
about
been
right.
on the road for hours, running a late-night haul from North Carolina up into West Virginia.
Look, if you see something, no, you didn't. Don't talk about it. It's all fine. You did not see anything.
The job was simple enough. Pick up the load, drive through the mountains, and deliver by morning. I'd done the route a dozen times before, and I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. But that night, let's just say, something was different. The weather had taken a turn for the worse earlier in the evening. A thick fog rolled in, the kind that clings to the ground and makes it feel like you're driving through a dream or a nightmare. My headlights cut through the mist, but barely. Visibility was terrible. I could only see a few feet ahead of me, the winding road disappearing into the fog like it was leading me somewhere I wasn't supposed to go. Still, I pressed on. I had a delivery window to make, and I wasn't about to let a little fog slow me down. I tried to focus on the road, but something about the silence felt oppressive. It wasn't just the lack of sound, it was the way the fog seemed to swallow everything around me, leaving me completely isolated. It must have been around 2 a.m. when I first heard it, a whisper, so soft it nearly blended with the sound of my truck's engine. At first, I figured it was just my mind messing with me. Long hours on the road can mess with your head, make you hear and see things that aren't really there. But the whisper didn't go away. I turned my head slightly, listening, trying to make out the sound. It was soft, like someone was murmuring right behind me.
I don't know. So this is a weird one. I talked about this a little bit last night when I played Silent Hill. A couple days ago, I was driving in broad daylight down like a pretty busy street, right? And it was like, I heard, how do I word it? Like I heard a whispered like, hey, that was like if someone was sucking in breath, like in my left ear. Like I distinctly remember hearing the word like, hey, right? And I'm just like, look around and I'm like, there's no one on the sidewalk. I mean, there's cars in front of me, cars in back of me. It is the middle of the day. I mean, we're talking like 3 to 4 p.m., right? I mean, it's bright out. So I don't know. I guess I just like had just a random auditory hallucination out of my, I don't know. That was a weird one that like, I can't explain it. I don't know what happened. I don't think it's spooky or paranormal or anything like that because it's literally the middle of the day in a very populated area on a busy street. But I also like looked around and I'm like, I don't have any explanation for this. It must have been the wind. We'll go with the Skyrim effect there. I don't know, especially when you're hearing whispering when driving, or hearing anything that shouldn't be there. Definitely kind of messes you a little bit.
Into the back of the cab, but of course there was no one. I shook my head, telling myself I was just tired, that I needed a break. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. It wasn't just in my head. It was like it was inside the truck with me, lingering just behind my ears, slipping through the cracks of my sanity. I turned up the heat, hoping the warmth would wake me up a bit. The fog outside was thick as ever, and I couldn't afford to let my mind wander. But the whisper didn't stop. It grew louder, more insistent. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone, it was cold, almost angry. My skin prickled with unease. I tried to focus on the road to push the sound out of my mind, but it was like trying to ignore a persistent itch. It was there, nagging at the back of my brain, making it impossible to think about anything else. About an hour later, things started to get worse. I was rounding a sharp curve when I caught movement in my rearview mirror, just a flicker of something, a shadow, disappearing into the fog behind me. I nearly slammed on the brakes, my heart jumping into my throat. For a moment, I thought it was an animal or another vehicle, but when I looked again, there was nothing there. Just the road stretching behind me, empty and swallowed by the mist. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves.
My guy, you have just entered Silent Hill. Don't worry about it. Just avoid the nurses. Nah, you didn't see anything. Just keep going.
You're seeing things, I told myself. You're tired and the fog's playing tricks on your eyes. But that explanation didn't sit right with me. The shadow had been too distinct, too human. And it wasn't just that I'd seen something. It was the feeling that came with it. That prickling sensation on the back of my neck, like someone was watching me. I checked the rearview mirror again, my eyes scanning the empty road behind me. Nothing. Just fog and darkness. I gripped the wheel tighter and tried to shake off the feeling, but it wouldn't go away. By the time 4 a.m. rolled around, I was a mess of nerves. The whispering hadn't stopped, and the shadows in my mirror had become more frequent. Every time I looked back, I saw something, just for a split second, a figure standing in the fog, watching me. But when I blinked, it was gone. I was starting to think I was losing my mind. Maybe the isolation was getting to me. Maybe the fog, the late hour, and the stress of the job were pushing me to the edge. But then, something happened that I couldn't explain away. I was driving down a long stretch of road, the fog so thick I could barely see past the hood of my truck. The whispering had grown louder, almost frantic, but I still couldn't make out the words. I kept looking in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see another shadow, when I saw it. A face. I slammed on the brakes, my truck screeching to a stop in the middle of the road.
Why brake? I guess it's the immediate shock, the panic response to brake to kind of assess what you're seeing. I guess what's the detriment to just continuing, right? Like putting myself in the situation, right? Like what is Virgil Canis, thanks for the bits, appreciate that. What is the detriment to just keep going, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you see the thing, no you didn't, just keep going. What's the face gonna do? Do the repo thing where it noms you? Don't stop, just keep going. Like this seems like the logical play here. Even trying to put myself in the situation, sure, I would want to maybe look at it, but I'm also like, nah, just leave, just go.
My chest tightened, my heart hammering while I stared at the mirror, struggling to catch my breath. There, in the backseat of my cab, was a face, pale, expressionless, and cold.
That's a little different then.
It stared at me through the reflection, its eyes dark and hollow. Terror gripped me, freezing me in place. I whipped around, dreading, to see someone sitting behind me.
Yeah, if it's in the cab, that's different then. I thought it was like behind like the truck. No, if it's behind you, ignore it and keep going. If you see it start to move at you, then take the tire iron and beat the crap out of it, right? Like go full Lucas Baker on this thing, right? I don't know. That's a rough one because if it's in the cab, reasonably, at that point, what goes through your head is when could this, individual, let's just say person, right? When did this person get in your cab? Did they get it at the last rest stop? Did you check the back before you left? Did you do a safety check? Obviously, the implication here with the whistling is this is going to be more paranormal. This is going to be supernatural, right? That's the implication with this story. I usually default to I need to explain everything away before I really begin to think, right? Because it's very easy to just, it's just paranormal or it's supernatural. And it's like, nah, it's literally because magnets exist, or it's literally because X, Y, or Z, right? Things can be explained away. With the auditory thing, it's just like, I just had a potential auditory hallucination. I can't explain it. It was in the middle of the daylight. There's nothing spooky or supernatural about that. Who knows? Maybe it was some weird interaction with a car behind me. I didn't check if their window was down. It could be that they were just saying, hey, because the line wasn't moving, right? You have to rule everything out before you explore the spooky paranormal options.
But the backseat was empty. I sat there for a moment, my heart thudding in my ears, trying to process what I had just seen. There was no way someone could have gotten in the truck without me noticing.
Mm-hmm.
No way they could just disappear like that. I forced myself to breathe, my hands shaking as I gripped the wheel. I didn't want to look in the mirror again. I didn't want to see that face. But I had to know. Slowly, I looked up at the rear view. Nothing. Just the back seat, empty as ever. But that didn't make me feel any better. I could still feel it, whatever it was, lingering in the cab with me, watching, waiting. I needed to get out of there. I needed to keep driving, to put as many miles between me and this cursed road as possible.
Yeah.
I started the truck again, my hands trembling as I gripped the wheel. I kept my eyes on the road ahead, refusing to look in the mirror no matter how much I wanted to.
Don't look in the mirror.
The fog was still thick, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away from whatever had found me in the mountains. Then, the radio crackled to life. At first, I thought it was just static, but as I listened closer, I realized it wasn't. There was a voice in the static, distorted and faint, like someone was trying to speak to me from miles away, and they were saying my name. Marie. I froze. The voice was low, guttural, like it was coming from deep within the earth.
Yeah, I mean, like, that, I mean, either we go auditory hallucination route, like, I can't easily explain that away. Assuming this is a good faith story, assuming this is made, you know, as an actual account, I can't explain that. I mean, sure, we could look into warring radio stations in that specific section, but if the radio crackles to life and it says a name that is clearly recognized, like I don't even want to know what the odds are on that. I mean, we're looking at still a mathematical probability. I don't have an answer for that. That doesn't quite match up.
I reached out to turn off the radio, but before I could, the voice spoke again. Marie, don't look back. I yanked my hand away from the dial. I felt like I was going to be sick.
Don't look back.
The voice was still there, repeating the same phrase over and over again, each time growing louder, more desperate. Don't look back. I didn't want to. I knew that if I looked in the mirror again, I'd see something I couldn't unsee, but the voice, it was compelling me, pulling me toward the rear view.
I wonder if accounts like this are what Dead Space actually pulled from, because we go over it with like Altman, right? Like the actual Altman be praised, like actual Altman who was made a martyr, like how there's instinctually something within the human brain that tries to resist the marker, right? Sorry, I had to put my hand, I was just rushing my nose. That tries to resist the marker, right, and tells us not to do a thing, right? Like don't touch the devil's tail, the black marker in the crater, right? Like, I wonder if that's what things like that pull from, because everything has derivative is the word we come to again, right? Everything's derivative, right? So I don't know. This is interesting though, because like, yeah, just don't look back. Just keep going. Just don't acknowledge it. Don't turn off the radio, because it seems like this is being said in warning, in contrast to whatever is happening here. Also, I do want to point out really quick, there's a 5 in the tree, or there's an S in the tree. If you look above my horn here, this one, or sorry, that one, it's between my horns. There's an S in the tree. Now you can't unsee that. You're welcome.
Me to defy its warning. My hand trembled as I reached up, my fingers brushing the edge of the mirror. I had to know. I had to see.
Don't look in the mirror.
I adjusted the mirror just enough to catch a glimpse of the back seat.
Come on, bro.
And there it was again. The face. Just staring at me. I slammed the mirror back into place and floored the gas pedal. Speeding down the fog-covered road at a dangerous pace, but I didn't care. I needed to get away. The voice on the radio had grown louder now, a cacophony of distorted sounds, all screaming the same thing. Don't look back. I didn't dare. I kept my eyes on the road ahead, even as I felt the cold presence in the cab grow stronger, as if the face was moving closer, inching toward me. My hands shaking so badly I could barely control the wheel. I had no idea where I was, no idea if I was still on the right road. All I could see was fog and darkness, the world outside my truck disappearing into the mist.
Mm-hmm.
The voice on the radio crackled, sputtered, then went silent. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of my engine and my ragged breathing. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the fog lifted. I kept going for hours until I made it to the next town. I pulled into a diner parking lot, my hands still trembling as I cut the engine. I sat there for a long time, trying to steady my breathing, trying to convince myself that what had just happened wasn't real. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get rid of the sense that it really was.
Our brains are really good at gaslighting ourselves. Our brains are also really good at retconning information.
I didn't tell anyone what had happened. Who would believe me? A ghostly face in my rear view, a voice on the radio warning me not to look back. It sounded insane, even to me. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And to this day, I haven't driven through those mountains again, because no matter how much time passes, I can't forget that face. I can't forget the way it stared at me. I still hear the whisper sometimes late at night when I'm
Yeah, that it's because you looked back.
alone on the road. Don't look back. And I never do.
Oh my God.
If
Don't look
these
back.
stories sent shivers down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button and share the fear with your friends. Subscribe for more terrifying stories from the darkest corners of the road. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. You won't want to. Stay safe out there because sometimes what's lurking in the shadows is all too real.
I can tell that
Thanks for watching and drive carefully.
I can tell
I'll
that
see you in the next nightmare.
that outro was very compressed. I can tell it was done in a different shot. I thought this was a great video. I love that content like this does exist on YouTube, honestly. I like it. I mean, I think people would consider this quote unquote lazy content. I don't. I think lazy is subjective, right? I think lazy is more you AI generate a video, right? Even if you're just doing a clip comp of like VTubers or something, at least you're still putting effort into it, right? At least you're not like just pressing a button to generate things. And I like this. I think that it was really cool to see this. It does feel really compressed though. It does feel, it feels warm, but it feels warm on the upper end, and it feels like the audio peaks, like the peak is really low. And it does feel a little compressed. I feel like if they worked out their audio a little bit more to be a little more warm, to be a little more fresh is not the word I'm going for. Dude, an audio engineer should be able to tell exactly what I'm talking about, right? I feel like there's a really good channel here, and I thought this was really cool. So figured we'd go look at some spooky stories by a channel I hadn't seen before, and I will probably watch more of their stuff because honestly, this was presented in a really good way. I liked it. Thank you everyone for watching. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully you got value out of this. I sure did. And I'll see you in the next one.